All right. So for this week's Rearview presented by BF Goodrich, we're going to watch you do battle at last season's Vans World Cup of Surfing at Sunset Beach. You went into this event needing a result to qualify. Is that right?
Yeah. Went into I went into Hawaii needing a result, but I felt like I kind of didn't need anything because I had a busted up knee and I wasn't feeling too much pressure going into Haleiwa especially.
What happened at Haleiwa? Because it's one of those things again where there's no expectations. You're like, I'm just happy to be in these events. I'll work on my seed points. But you got a result at Haleiwa, right? And that kind of set you up for Sunset Beach here.
Yeah, in Haleiwa it was my first Triple Crown, and going into Haleiwa it was my third or fourth time ever surfing it, and I had the bust up knee, so I was kind of taking it easy. But in one of my heats, I kind of went a bit overboard and got a pretty decent score, but I pushed myself a little bit hard for it, I think. But yeah, I had no expectations and got a decent result at Haleiwa. I remember I needed a 30 quarters and a semis, or no, round of 32 and a quarters to qualify, or on paper qualify before anything changed. And I got the round of 32 at Haleiwa, and I needed the quarters at Sunset after that, but I kind of wasn't really thinking about it too much.
So after you got that result at Haleiwa, did anything? You said you weren't thinking about it too much, but at least partially, were you like, oh wow, I could be on tour now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember I did the maths and I was like, well, I could technically qualify right here, but uh, like literally last year, all year, in my whole life pretty much, I never actually expected that I could qualify. I never really thought of myself up as like with the top guys in the world. I just loved surfing and having fun with my friends and stuff. And then all of a sudden I was in that predicament. So it's pretty crazy thought at that time. I didn't really think about it too much.
That blows me away because like every year there are thousands of surfers who want to qualify and only so few actually do it, you know. So for someone like yourself to go in with minimal to no expectations and then find yourself in this position just kind of blows my mind. But I think the waves probably at Haleiwa and Sunset Beach really suit your surfing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I kind of look at Sunset as just big Merriweather. They're such a similar wave, I find. All kind of open oceans, like steep but slopey faces at the same time, and just promoting just power calves. And I feel like most Merriweather surfers do well in Hawaii, or people in this general area. In fact, like it's kind of raw in the Newcastle area, especially through winter. So yeah, and then in Haleiwa is kind of similar to in Gary Bowl, but just scaled up at Haleiwa by a lot. But yeah, they were both fun. I could relate to them a lot.
And you said you'd only surfed Haleiwa a couple times before that event. Had you surfed Sunset that much in relation?
Yeah, well, Surfing Australia, I was lucky enough to get the call up the year before as like one of the promising surfers coming through. Couldn't qualify into the primes, but Surfing Australia bought us, took me over with a couple other guys, and we did a little camp, and we stayed right on Sunset. So they book a place right on Sunset every year for the next guys. And I feel like if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have come anywhere near. I would have had been a lost puppy out there.
I mean, it's one of those spots that, having been doing the tour for a long time, we stayed at Sunset a long time too. And it's one of those things that the first year you learn a little bit, and then by year five, you're like, I know so much more about this wave than I did the first time. Then I have so
Yeah.
much more to learn out here. It's just such an open field. And every time you paddle out, you learn something new.
Yeah, it's the biggest. It's probably the biggest playing field out there for any like surf spot on the QS.
Mm.
I haven't surfed any of the spots on the CT really, so I don't know. But yeah, on the QS, there's so much going on out there. There's like 5 or 6 different spots you can sit out there, and like if you watch Zeke in this heat, actually, you can just see how much of a he's got a higher standard of knowledge out there. He's got the place dialed, and even his selection of turns on all the waves look so much bigger than everybody else's.
Now, in a heat like this, because it is such a wide playing field, are you the kind of competitor that will talk to the other surfers in the water, or do you kind of keep to yourself?
Um, if they talk to me, I'll talk to them, but I'm not going to talk. Like if they want to talk, I'll talk. It doesn't get in my head really, but yeah. Well, if they talk to me, I'll say, yeah, what's up, bro? But yeah, I don't know. Nobody really talked in this heat. I don't think. It was pretty serious. And me and Liam were both in the qualifying spot. And I think
Right.
Zeke was kind of fighting for it at that point. So, yeah, it was pretty intense heat. And yeah.
I think there may have even been pressure on Griffin too, because I think he hadn't done that well on the CT
Oh,
after that
yeah.
opening event. And I think he was really looking to kind of sharpen himself ahead of Pipe. He obviously ended up requalifying, but
Yeah, I think so. I actually think that was the case too. So it was a pretty like intense heat, and I was I was pretty nervous for it because it was big and I didn't really have that much like knowledge out there yet compared to the other blokes. And yeah, we obviously had two CT surfers at the time, and Liam, who's coming like 15th on the QS, and I was just like, what's going on? If I make this heat, and after I made that heat, that just set me up for the next couple of heats. It just built my confidence so much.
and someone like Liam O'Brien is he? I'm not even know that much background about him either, but is he about your age or in terms of
Yeah,
getting?
we're the same age, and we've been surfing against each other since we were really, really young. And yeah, I travelled with him all last year to every event on the primes because I think we were the only two guys really from Australia that were in the primes around our age. So yeah, it
Mm.
was really good to hang out with Lob, and he's such a good person to be pushing me. He's an insane surfer, and he'll be there he'll be on tour in the next few years. I guarantee it.
Let's talk about boards. So in sunset and these kind of conditions, what are you riding in the heat?
Well, actually, in that this morning, the morning of this day, I took out my 6'8", and they're pretty chunky boards, but they're kind of skinny and really brought in at the tail. And brought my 6'8" out, and I pretty much couldn't turn it. There was so much foam under me, and I was like, came in on the beach and just made the split decision. I'm going to run my 6'6" out there, which I think is maybe pretty small. I know Liam was on a 6'8" in the heat, and I was like, yeah, I'll get boards get in my head so much. So making that decision and having Kikoa there helping me out was like a huge help as well. But yeah, I'm just riding a 6'6", pretty much just your standard step up, and really brought in at the tail. And I like to get extra glassing on my step up, so it makes them a bit heavier, just to push through all the bump and chop, especially at sunset. And with the wind that day, I think that helped me a lot as well out there.
Now, are you picking up boards from local shapers in Hawaii, or are you bringing them over from home?
Well, this year I didn't really have like I just got a couple boards off my shaper. I know I went over there and Bam's like, "Come on, you got to get boards for next year off, blah blah blah." But yeah, I just hit up Will Weber, who's my shaper, and I was like, he makes a really really good step up, and I've known that since I was really young, so I was pretty confident in his boards doing well over there. And yeah, especially my sunset boards were looking super super sharp, and I only got like two or three boards made. I used like a lot of last year's boards as well. And because it was all like I didn't even know if I was going to be going over to Hawaii because of my knee,
Mm.
and then it all happened so fast, so I was kind of not too prepared for it. But yeah, they all worked well in the end.
Where do you fall on kind of foam in general? Because yeah, I recently came across sort of an old Andy Irons Channel Islands board from 2004 as a 6'3" that he used in Fiji. There's no foam in it. Like it's probably like 2 1/8 inches. It's so like it's such a knife. And he was
Yeah,
a big dude, and I was just it's just blowing my mind like holding it. And I know like Surfcore 2001, who I follow on Instagram, so funny. He's got like "Foam is for cowards" kind of tagline.
yeah.
Where do you and Will kind of sit just on general shortboards? Are you guys like real knifey boards, less foam, or are you a bit more beef?
I think we're like in between kind of. I ride boards that are an inch or two longer than me,
Mm.
and they're a bit skinnier. They're a lot skinnier than like a lot of my other boards. I think they're like than like a lot of my other competitors' boards. I think they're like 18 and a half or 18 something. in the lower side of the 18-inch wide anyways. But yeah, not too much foam in them. But I think around 26 litres, 25.5 litres, and I weigh 73 kilos. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's a lot
And
less than other people.
and do you depart from the thruster very much? Do you ever try? Oh, this is actually. Why don't you walk us through this wave now that we're watching it?
Okay, so this wave, the heat had been going for a fair while. I actually remember it too well, but I remember. Oh yeah, I remember I was kind of stressing whether I needed to get a wave. Like there's like 13 minutes and the heat is already gone, and I was like, I only had a 2.9, and I just kind of let it all hang out in the end. If you hit the lip at sunset, then they give you the score. So like if I had made that turn, I would have been kind of maybe like a 6 or something like that. But it was a smaller wave, so maybe a bit under. But yeah, I was just going for it.
Well, it's interesting competing out there on days like this too, right? Because Griffin and Liam don't have any scores. I guess Liam's up right now, but it's one of those ones where you do kind of have to get busy sometimes to get in a rhythm, even just to put stuff on the board.
Yeah, it's when you're watching it from the beach, you see so many waves, and when you're out there, there's nothing. And like this wave for Liam, for example, like when you stand up at the back, it looks like there could be nothing on the entire wave for the rest of the wave, and then all of a sudden it's going to wall up on the inside bowl, which a lot of them actually end up doing, but some of them push wide and then some of them go deep and then close out. So it's a really hard wave to read, and I think I kept pretty busy this heat considering like what you usually do at sunset. So I got, yeah, oh, that was my kind of strategy. And yeah.
And it's also one of those waves too that it just looks different depending on the swell direction, right? Because you get those north swells that it's more of a proper kind of wall across the point break there, and then you get the west ones like this. Today's a bit more west where it stands up on the bowl.
Yeah.
And some surfers like surfing one versus the other. Do you have a preference on what you like surfing at sunset?
I actually have no idea still, kind of, because I haven't been there enough, and I don't even know the directions because I live on the east coast of Australia, so all my compass, my direction, sense of direction is all out. But I like it when it's pretty big on the bowl,
Yep.
and there's like a couple little barrels or like pretty steep in there. That's kind of what I like to do. This wave from Griffin was pretty crazy. Hey, he's gone to hit the lip. There's so much backwash out there this day. Absolutely smokes him. It was
This
pretty
whole
heavy,
event,
man.
I remember just being so blown away by how, again, it's like the performance jumps in such a short amount of time just in the last few years, and how aggressive everyone's getting, like in the bowl, like approaching the lip, like the equipment they're riding. And last year I remember just being so blown away by how everyone was just approaching their heats at sunset and how hard they were pushing it in the bowl and trying to do turns at the most critical part of the wave.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive and so scary out there. Like it's pretty solid out there, and um, like I think Liam at the very end of this heat after my wave, he goes for a turn on the inside of the bowl and tries to hit the lip, and it was pretty intense and it's so super solid in there. I don't know, when you're in a heat, you just go for it. I guess you're not really thinking. You just like, let's get this score, let's do it. Like let's let it all hang out. I want qualifications on the line here. It's like make or break situation, and you just go for it.
You mentioned Kiko Bacalso a few times, who's a former world junior champion. He's a former like, CT heavy hitter. I had the pleasure of getting to work with him quite a lot. Such a good guy to have in your corner in Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah. Without Bam, especially in Sunset, I would have not qualified at all. He just like I get like a lot of in my head, like a lot of shit goes on. So I've been like trying not to swear too much. A lot of shit goes on in my head when I'm like out in the water and stuff, and I just need to try to keep it simple. And that's exactly what Bam did. That's his nickname. Yeah, he just kept it simple and was just saying, do this or do that, and you're going to get a wave here or you're going to get a wave there. And sure enough, a wave was coming there or a wave was going there. And
Here
yeah,
you
that's
go.
exactly what happened. Oh yeah, this one, I remember I just wanted to finish it. So I just kind of did a couple carves, or I just wanted to get a score on the board. And it was a nice wave, nicely paced, not too much going on it. So it was just steep enough to get a couple good rail turns. And then I kind of held back on that last section because I wanted to finish the wave, and that was definitely not the right thing to do. I don't even know how to hit some of those end sections out there, because you don't know whether to hit it early or hit it late. Because if you hit it late, you're going to get smoked, or you're going to get a huge score. And if you hit it early, what happened then might happen. But yeah, I feel like when you're out there, your turns look so much smaller than what they feel. You feel like you're doing the biggest turn ever, but you're watching this and you're doing a tiny little cutback. But yeah, I just got engulfed there, and the sidewash coming from the west, is that the west or
Yeah.
whatever, just yeah, smoked me.
It's funny. Like I thought what you said there it's such a perfect term for sunset with when you said pace. And I remember I read something about Mark Occhilupo talking about young surfers surfing at Sunset Beach, and he was so obsessed with the pace where he was just sort of like talking to himself about like delay your bottom turn, delay your bottom turn, delay. And it's like,
Yeah.
because it's all about kind of reading the wave and finding those power pockets and not going too soon. If you go too soon by like a second, you're screwed. And if you wait too long by a second, you're screwed, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's something you can do with every wave, is just like hold your bottom turn, just wait off the bottom to come up at the most perfect time you can. And at sunset, the wave's so unpredictable, so you just got to make those split decisions. Do I go now early and just risk getting lipped in the head, or do we wait a little bit and then do a carve out in the open face? And I don't know, it's something that I've been working on a lot this past year, like just cutting out like all those little jumps off the bottom that you do. If you watch like Griffin right there, he didn't do he didn't do any pumps off the bottom and kind of waited. He maybe would have made that turn if there was no backwash in the wave then. So it's such a hard wave out there, and it's hard to describe unless you've surfed it.
You were talking about getting heavier glass jobs on your boards to kind of cut through a lot of that backwash at waves like Sunset Beach. And I was going to ask you earlier, because I'm always interested to hear from CT surfers, are you the kind of guy that experiments with shapes and construction? Do you ride like epoxies or quads or fishes or anything, or do you just try to keep it as sharp as possible on your thrusters?
Well, I kind of experiment, but not too much, not to like the extent like Kelly used to or still
Right.
does. But yeah, I like getting on different boards and having a go of my mates' boards or whatnot. And I've actually got a little fish and a single fin coming from a guy at Ngare as well, Nav Fox, who's making these really cool fishes. And they're like pretty high performancey, but I don't think I'll be riding them in the CT. But I feel like they're good just to groom out your surfing and get it all clean and looking nice. But yeah, I haven't really experimented with the quads and stuff so much. But I think I've been watching a little bit of Bobby Martinez,
Yeah.
and I noticed he's riding a lot of quads and his surfing's looking really, really sharp. So I just kind of got my eye on maybe a couple quads in the near future.
That's
We'll see
funny.
though.
Like I mean, there's so many surfers, and you guys surf at such a high level all the time. I understand that people are like, no, I just surf my Ferrari thruster in all conditions, like terrible waves, like good waves. I just have to keep it as sharp as possible. But um, the people that don't, and the people that kind of stretch out a little bit, it feels like they explore different parts of the wave and different parts of equipment, and then they're able to kind of take that back into their surfing and get a different look and feel. And there's been a few instances where guys and girls have surfed like really interesting equipment, whether it's like the dumpster diver or the Merrick twin fin, or like a round nose fish with Chris Ward at Snapper Rocks or something like that, in CT heats, and it can work.
Yeah, well, I remember was it the dumpster diver I think that Dane had at at Trestles.
Yeah.
Like, it was such a weirdly shaped board, and he's such a good surfer, and like he can surf anything obviously because he's a freak. But he turned that board into a bestseller overnight, and like with the same with Bobby, I find I've been watching a little bit of his surfing lately. He's riding the quads, and I don't know if it's the quads or his shaped boards or whatever, but his carve off the top, or even just his surfing, his style of surfing, but his carve off the top is something that I've tried to put into my surfing, and I think that's why I'm like, oh, should I try a quad and see if I can get that carve a little bit tighter and faster and whatnot? And yeah, it's whatever and if you experiment, you're gonna get different results. So everybody start experimenting because I want to see what you're doing.
I'm all for it. Um, the answer might just be no, but have you had much experience surfing any of the wave systems, whether down in Melbourne or Waco or Surf Ranch?
I've surfed the one down in Melbourne,
Hmm.
I forget what it's called, the
Uh,
one near the airport there.
Urban surf, right?
Urban surf, that's right. Yeah, I surfed that and that was so fun. I surfed on the advanced and intermediate setting, and I nearly found the intermediate setting like better. It's
Mm.
like nicer paced. Small. It was a bit smaller wave, I think, but it was just perfect pace, and the lip was a bit more forgiving, and you can just experiment so many different maneuvers on it, which was pretty cool. And I'm excited to surf Kelly's wave pool if we ever get to.
I'm sure you guys will.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's another one where like it's just a different kind of experience for surfers because you only get so much opportunity, right? You get your waves and you have to perform, or you don't, and you don't get to sit out there
yeah,
and try to grab another one. And it's interesting to see some surfers really gravitate towards that kind of competition and do really, really well. And others
yeah,
that are just like, oh man, like I can't surf out here because I just like having the freedom of getting a wave whenever I want.
yeah. That's going to really test me, that comp. It's going to be like so nervous for that event. Like you listen to the surfers that are already on tour and they've been on tour for 10 years and they come in to their post heat interview and they say, oh, I was so nervous for that heat, man. And I'm like, fuck, if you're nervous, I'm going to be fucking shitting it out there. God, I'll probably get a fall of a first turn. But no, I'm super excited for that comp because it's got like a perfect size left, and I don't mind going left in like a 2 to 3 footer. Yeah, that'll be good.
If you had to say your backhand or your forehand was stronger, which one would you say?
I'd say my backhand probably is, especially when it's
Oof.
like 3 to 4 foot. Yeah,
Mhm.
that was crazy by Zeke at the start of the heat. No, like that's what I was saying. You can read this wave so well. Doesn't look like much at the start. Does a layback and then comes onto the inside bowl, which is terrifying. Does a huge Larry. That was the second wave actually. Just gives it a good stare down.
That was a nice combination, off the bottom, off the top.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, it's one of those things like Zeke he's a pretty fit dude. He works on his fitness a ton. Like,
yeah.
and given that this has been an off season, like what kind of things have you done from just a training perspective to kind of get ready for whenever we return to competition?
I haven't like actually been doing heaps and heaps. I've just been surfing a ridiculous amount just because that's where I want to improve mostly. I'm still 20. I don't, my body's not going to like break and then fall apart yet. I still got a little bit left in me, but um, I've been doing a lot of cardio with like a skipping rope and stuff. And especially before snapper, I was getting ready doing that stuff because you could have a 200 300 meter ride ahead of you doing turns the whole way. But I haven't been actually in the gym too much as of late. But I've just been surfing my brains out.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's so many different approaches to how people succeed on tour, and like a through line through our conversation today has been you kind of gone in with like a clarity of mind and not having too much pressure on yourself, and that's often when you've performed the best, you know. So from a sense of like if you're overtraining, that might not actually put you in the right frame of mind. Like if you're just surfing a lot and you're feeling good about
Yeah.
your surfing, it's almost a better place for you to be.
Yeah, that's definitely that's you've hit the nail on the head. That's me to a T. Like if I'm feeling good with my surfing and feeling as long as I'm feeling fit as well, like I'm still doing stuff. I'm doing less than what Zeke would be doing, for
Well,
example.
we all are, so that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just I get my cardio done and do all my stretches and stuff and make sure I'm feeling limber. But as long as I'm feeling good, it's like look good, feel good, kind of. You're looking good in the surf. You're looking good and feeling good, and that's kind of like I don't want to, if I put too much pressure on myself, that's what I feel like happens when I train really hard, because I feel like I have to do well now because I've been putting in the effort. Whereas, yeah, if I like, have a bit more of a relaxed approach, then that's where I do my best.
This might be your last wave. Walk us through it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I
Cool.
came off the bottom there. I was pretty fucking scared to go up and hit that
That's a
lip.
huge lip.
Yeah, and then I came up and did that nice carve, and that carve felt way bigger than it was. And I think I should have just done a Larry at the end of that wave and finished it, and I would have got a nice, or I got a decent score anyways. And then this is the wave I was talking about. Liam on the inside bowl comes up right into the lip and tries to stomp it, and that's about as scary as surfing gets, I reckon, or for me, because I'm not surfing 50-foot jaws.
Is what Billy Kemp is in the next heat. We can ask him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what you were saying too. It's like qualifications on the line, and that's why Sunset is such a kind of a radical event to finish the qualification series with, because you do have people pushing themselves because like their careers are on the line in a big way, you know, and if Liam makes that, he might bump up into advancing spot. Yeah,
you're pushing yourself to the limit. I think actually Griff might have got a wave before, and I don't know if I remember he got a wave, and I thought he's going to get in front of me on this. He's going to be in front of me, and I knew in my mind I was like, I need a score on this wave, and I came off the bottom, and that section was almost identical to a section I had earlier in the comp, but just twice as big. But I fell on the one earlier. I kind of just learned, like, don't push too hard on the turn, and you'll make it, hopefully. And I just went up and let it all hang out, and I was lucky to make that turn. But I should have finished the waves. Come on, mate. Got to do that in the CT.
That's all right. You get time. And so you advance through this heat. You continue through the event, and you push yourself into a qualification position. Walk us through what that was like, and when you found out that you'd secured a spot on the 2021 championship tour.
Yeah, well, the next heat after that, I remember it was my goal to make it to the heat after the next heat, round at the quarters, because that was, like I said earlier, that on paper, that was where I would have to make it to qualify technically. And I got paddled out. A few people caught waves, and I didn't get a wave in the set. I got the last wave of the set, and I was like, all right, I need to do something here, because this is the heat I need to make to qualify. And stood up, and it was a closeout, but I pulled in and came out of the barrel. I got like a 9, I think, on it. And then I didn't get another wave for the rest of the heat, and it was the scariest 20 minutes of my life. Got through that heat, and that was like my goal. And then in the next heat, got an interference. If I made that next heat, it was instant qualification there. Yeah, I was locked in. And the paddle into the Sunset was it's so hard on some of the waves. And I looked onto my inside, and it looked like Stewie wasn't going to go. And I just paddled so hard into it, just stood up, surfed the whole wave to the end. I think watching that wave, it would have been like a pretty decent score for that heat. Probably would have got me through the heat. And then I got to the end, and I still didn't even realize I'd burnt Stewie. Boys were blowing up at me in the channel, and I was like, fuck. And I just rattled for the rest of the heat. And then, anyways, didn't qualify then. It was the most nerve-wracking time watching Sunset, and Zeke got all the way to the final, and I think if he won, then he would have knocked me out. And if Stewie had got third in a heat, he would have knocked me out, but he got fourth, and then somebody else got knocked in a heat, and everything just kind of fell my way, and then it went down a pipe. And I remember it was one of the first times I met Owen, and we were hanging out in the lounge or whatever, and he's like, oh, so you might qualify. And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, what do you come and did the maths with me? And he just said to me, look, mate, you're on the tour. You've made it. Don't worry. Trust me. And so we were just kind of did a mini celebration, but, and then watched the whole of pipe, and Jesse Mendez just kept making every heat. And he was the one guy that we were like, please don't keep going. But I'm not writing him off, but I was like, fucking get knocked out, Jesse. and then I think, Yago knocked him out or somebody knocked him out, but I think Yago was the guy that double qualified in the end, and yeah, it was the most surreal experience of my life, and like came out up with the WSL audio and the video, and everybody sprayed champagne in my face, and yeah, it was pretty wild. It was the craziest experience of my life for sure.
Do you like that? Well, if so, subscribe over there and then watch more videos over there. And then tell us your favorite videos down there. It's a 3-step process. Do them all now.